The wind hits like frozen hammers, minus 20 degrees Celsius and dropping. Ice crystals slice through the air, each one a microscopic blade. The sun dies behind mountains of black cloud, and the Neanderthal band knows, tonight, nature wants them dead. She's the matriarch, 40 winters old, ancient by their standards. Her nose, massive compared to yours, pulls in air that would freeze your lungs. But inside those enlarged nasal passages, blood vessels work like radiators, warming each breath to body temperature before it reaches her chest. Evolution's first heating system, built from bone and flesh. The children press against their mothers, their stocky bodies already burning calories at rates that would hospitalize modern humans. Every one of them, man, woman, child, is a walking furnace, their metabolism cranked to settings your body couldn't sustain for an hour. They need 4,000 calories just to maintain temperature. In a blizzard, they need more. But they're not panicking. This is their element. For 200,000 years, their bodies have been sculpted by cold that killed everything else. Short limbs that lose less heat. Barrel chests housing larger lungs. Muscle mass that generates warmth just by existing. They're not running from the storm, they're walking into it with the confidence of apex predators who know exactly where they're going. The cave mouth appears through swirling snow, a black wound in the mountainside. Not random shelter, this specific cave, chosen from dozens, remembered from seasons past. The matriarch has slept here 20 times before. She knows which chambers trap smoke, which passages create drafts, where water drips, where bears once denned. As darkness swallows the world, 12 Neanderthals vanish into stone. Outside, the temperature hits minus 25. The wind screams at 60 kilometers per hour. Any modern human caught outside would be dead in 30 minutes. Inside, the matriarch begins preparations that will mean the difference between waking up tomorrow or becoming frozen meat. She doesn't know the physics of what she's about to do. She only knows what her grandmother taught her. What 50 generations refined through trial and error and frozen corpses. Tonight, intelligence will fight thermodynamics. And somehow, impossibly, intelligence will win. Not all caves are created equal. Choose wrong, and you'll suffocate in your own smoke or freeze in wind tunnels that no fire can warm. The matriarch knew this cave's secrets, like you know your bedroom. 13 meters from the entrance, that's the sweet spot. Close enough that smoke can escape, far enough that wind can't reach. The main chamber opens here, 15 meters wide, tall enough to stand but low enough to trap heat. Natural limestone shelves line the walls like furniture, waiting for inhabitants. The children already know their jobs. The youngest gather dry moss and lichen from the protected spots near the entrance, where snow hasn't reached. Their fingers, shorter and thicker than yours, don't lose feeling as quickly in cold. They work without mittens, bare hands scraping material that will become kindling. 2 adult males inspect the cave's depths with burning branches, checking for fresh bear sign. Cave bears weigh 600 kilograms and don't appreciate company. The torch smoke flows along the ceiling, showing air currents invisible to the eye. Where smoke pools, carbon monoxide will gather. Where it flows smoothly, humans can breathe. They're reading the cave's ventilation like you'd read a map. The matriarch examines the floor. Dry here, damp there. She knows water will condense where warm bodies meet cold stone. Sleep in the wrong spot, and hypothermia creeps through wet furs. She marks the dry zones with heel scrapes, claiming the best spots for the elderly and children. But it's the acoustic properties she's really testing. She clicks her tongue, listening to echoes. Sound carries differently where air temperatures mix. The spot where echoes die quickly, that's where warm air will pool. That's where the weakest will sleep tonight. Every decision is life or death. The entrance faces away from prevailing winds. Their ancestors learned this after families froze in wind-facing caves. The ceiling height creates a natural smoke layer above head level. The floor slopes slightly upward from the entrance, trapping warm air like an invisible door. They didn't need thermometers to know this cave maintains temperatures 20 degrees warmer than outside during blizzards. They just needed 200,000 years of accumulated knowledge, paid for in frozen ancestors. Fire seems simple. Wood plus flame equals heat. But in a cave during a blizzard, Fire is advanced mathematics that can kill you 3 different ways: too much smoke, suffocation, too little heat, hypothermia, wrong placement, carbon monoxide poisoning while you sleep. The firekeeper is 16, trained since childhood. He doesn't build one fire, he builds 3, each with specific purpose. The first, near the entrance, small and hot, creates an air draw that pulls smoke out. The second, the main hearth, sits exactly where decades of use have proven optimal, 5 meters from the sleeping area, where physics does something beautiful. Hot air rises, hits the cave ceiling, spreads along stone, then cools and descends along the walls. This creates a convection cell, a rotating cylinder of warm air. Place the fire wrong by 1 meter, the cell breaks and heat escapes or smoke pools. Place it right, and you've created a Stone Age heating system that would make engineers weep. The third fire is genius disguised as routine. A bed of coals, no flames, buried in sand near where they'll sleep. It radiates heat for hours without smoke, like underfloor heating made from burned wood and dirt. The sand above it will stay warm until dawn, a thermal mass storing BTUs they can't measure but understand perfectly. But fuel is the real intelligence. Not just wood, wood is amateur hour. They burn bone, specifically mammoth leg bones, hollow and filled with marrow fat. One femur burns for 3 hours at temperatures that would melt modern camping equipment. The fat renders out slowly, creating a controlled burn that produces minimal smoke and maximum heat. They've also discovered chemistry without knowing it. Certain stones placed in the fire crack and release calcium oxide, which absorbs moisture from the air. Drier air feels warmer, requires less energy to heat. They just know these good stones make better fires. By full darkness, the cave glows orange. The temperature near the main hearth, 15 degrees Celsius. In the sleeping area, 8 degrees Celsius. Outside, minus 28 degrees Celsius and falling. They've created a 43-degree temperature differential using nothing but fire and stone. Modern humans with all our technology would struggle to replicate this. Forget everything you know about animal pelts. A bear skin draped over shoulders isn't clothing. It's a death shroud with gaps where wind enters and heat escapes. Neanderthal fur technology was engineering that would challenge Project Runway. The grandmother spreads out the inventory: reindeer hide, winter coat, hollow hairs that trap air like modern synthetic insulation, wolf pelts, water-resistant guard hairs over dense undercoat, Arctic fox, the Ferrari of fur, each hair changing diameter along its length to maximize insulation. But the crown jewel? Wolverine fur, hydrophobic, frost-resistant, the only fur that doesn't ice up from breath. Each pelt was scraped, brain-tanned, worked until soft as your finest jacket. But here's the intelligence. They're not making blankets. They're creating a sleep system with multiple layers, each with specific purpose. Layer 1. Dried grass and moss, stuffed into gaps between stones to create a moisture barrier. Layer 2. Thick bear hide, fur side up, covering 6 square meters. This is the communal mattress, shared warmth radiating through dense fur. Layer 3. Individual reindeer hides, personal wrappings that move with each sleeper. But watch the grandmother's hands as she arranges them. She's not laying them flat. She's creating pockets, overlaps, sealed edges. The furs interlock like puzzle pieces, no gaps for cold air to penetrate. Where 2 furs meet, she's folded edges under, creating wind-proof seams. The children get special treatment. They're wrapped in rabbit fur, turned inside out, soft down against skin, then wrapped again in larger hides. 3 layers minimum. Because children lose heat faster, their surface area to volume ratio working against them. The real genius? The communal fur bag. 8 Neanderthals will sleep inside what's essentially a massive sleeping bag made from aurochs hide. Everyone's body heat trapped, shared, recycled. The leather has been worked until it's airtight but breathable, moisture-wicking but windproof. On top, Wolverine fur hood blankets that cover faces without collecting frost from breath. Mittens stay inside the bag. Putting on frozen mittens in the morning can trigger immediate frostbite. Total weight of furs per person, 15 kilograms. Total insulation value, equivalent to modern -40 degrees Celsius rated sleeping systems. Total cost in hours of preparation, hundreds. Total times this system failed, 0. Or they wouldn't have survived 200,000 years of ice ages. Physics doesn't care about your feelings. A single human body generates 100 watts of heat at rest, roughly equivalent to an old incandescent light bulb. In -20 degrees Celsius, you're losing 300 watts. Do the math. You're dying. Just slowly. But 12 bodies? That's 1,200 watts of biological heating. Trapped under furs in a confined space? That's survival. The sleeping arrangement isn't random. It's thermal engineering disguised as family bonding. The elderly woman with the lowest metabolism sleeps in the center, surrounded by the highest heat generators. The adult males, whose muscle mass burns calories like furnaces. Children tucked between adults, never on the edges where cold creeps in. They sleep in a formation that would make military tacticians proud. Not a pile, but a deliberate patterned spoon position, maximizing contact area while allowing movement. The pregnant female gets the warmest spot, her carrying the band's future worth extra calories spent on heating. But here's what anthropologists discovered from studying modern populations with Neanderthal genes. They were likely night owls, genetically predisposed to staying awake later. This wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Someone was always naturally awake, keeping the fires burning, watching for cave bears, ensuring no one rolled away from the heat into the killing cold. The matriarch assigned sleep shifts without words. A touch, a gesture, everyone knows their watch time. 2 awake while 10 sleep, rotating through the night. The watchers don't just tend fires, they physically check the sleeping. A hand too cold gets tucked back under furs. A child who's wiggled free gets repositioned. They're human thermostats, constantly adjusting the system. Breathing becomes coordinated. Under the massive fur covering, 12 sets of lungs create humidity that would normally be deadly moisture, means hypothermia. But they've positioned the fur to create ventilation channels. Breath goes up, hits cold fur, condenses, runs down the angled hide, away from bodies. They're sleeping inside a humidity-controlled tent they built from dead animals. The smell would make you vomit unwashed bodies, rendered fat, smoke, fur. But smell means molecules in motion, and motion means heat. Every fart, every breath, every drop of sweat is thermal energy trapped and shared. Disgust is a luxury for creatures who aren't fighting thermodynamics for their lives. By midnight, the temperature under the furs, 25 degrees Celsius. Body temperature maintained, energy expenditure minimized. Outside, wolves freeze to death. Your body needs 2,000 calories a day. Sitting, in a heated room, doing nothing. A Neanderthal in a blizzard needed 4,480 calories just to maintain core temperature. Not to hunt, not to think, just to not die. Where do you get 4,480 calories when the world is frozen death? Answer: you eat like a wolf crossed with a garbage disposal. Before sleeping, they feast. Not a meal, a caloric bombing run. Mammoth fat, rendered in semi-liquid, passed around in hollow bones like primitive thermoses. Pure fat contains 9 calories per gram. They're drinking 500 grams each. That's 4,500 calories in one sitting. You'd be hospitalized. They're just getting started. The children gnaw on marrow bones, cracking them with rocks heated in the fire. The heat makes extraction easier. Marrow is 97% fat, the richest natural food source on Earth. One mammoth femur contains 3,000 calories of marrow. A child needs every drop to survive the night. But here's the intelligence. They're not just eating fat. They've discovered the magic ratio. 70% fat, 30% protein. Too much protein without fat causes rabbit starvation, where your liver fails trying to process lean meat. Too much fat without protein, and you can't maintain muscle mass needed for heat generation. Dried berries appear, hoarded from autumn, fermented slightly. The fermentation produces alcohol, not enough to intoxicate, but enough to dilate peripheral blood vessels slightly, making extremities feel warmer. They don't understand the chemistry. They just know these old berries help fingers not freeze. Pine needle tea, bitter enough to make you gag, loaded with vitamin C. Scurvy makes you susceptible to cold. They've never heard of vitamins, but they know winter hunters who don't drink the needle water lose teeth and die. The pregnant female gets special treatment organ meats, liver, kidney, heart, packed with vitamins A, D, and K2. The fetus needs these for bone development. In winter, with no sunlight for vitamin D synthesis, organ meats are the only source. She eats until nausea, then eats more. The next generation depends on it. Digestion itself generates heat, the thermic effect of food. That mammoth fat requires energy to break down, roughly 15% of its caloric value. So eating becomes a heating mechanism. They time it perfectly. Massive meal 1 hour before sleep. So peak thermogenesis occurs during the coldest part of night, 2 a.m., the coldest hour. Outside, the temperature touches minus 35 degrees Celsius. The wind has died to whispers, which is worse still, air conducts cold more efficiently. In the silence, ice crystals form from breath, falling like tiny knives. The watcher is 19, in his prime, muscles generating heat that would kill him in summer. He sits cross-legged by the ember fire, not for warmth, but for duty. Every 20 minutes, he adds a single bone to the coals. Too much, and smoke fills the cave. Too little, and the temperature drops below survival threshold. His eyes never stop moving, watching the sleeping forms for signs of distress, irregular breathing, excessive stillness. The particular twitch that means someone's too cold. He knows each sleeper's patterns like, you know your children's cries. The grandmother always curls left. The infant makes tiny fist movements every few minutes. When patterns break, danger follows. But watching inside is only half his job. The cave entrance is a black mouth opening to frozen hell, and sometimes hell sends visitors. Wolves, following human scent, hoping for weakness. Cave bears, seeking shelter, willing to kill for it. Other humans, desperate enough to attempt theft or worse. His weapon rests across his lap, a thrusting spear, its tip hardened in fire until it could pierce frozen hide. But fighting is failure. His real weapon is deterrence. Every hour, he performs the ritual, stands, walks to the entrance, and pisses in a wide arc across the opening. The scent marks territory, tells predators, this cave is claimed by something that eats meat and fears nothing. The genetic quirk that makes him naturally wakeful at night, the same genes modern night owls carry, isn't random mutation. It's selection pressure. Bands with natural night watchers survived. Those without became calories for creatures that hunt in darkness. At 3 a.m., he wakes his replacement with a touch, not words. Sound carries in cold air, might wake children who need every minute of sleep to survive. The changeover is seamless information passed through gestures. Fire status, stable. Sleeper status, normal. Threat status, none. The new watcher is his sister, 17, just as capable. Gender equality born from necessity. Everyone who can watch, watches. Everyone who can contribute heat, contributes. Weakness is death, regardless of chromosomes. First light creeps into the cave like a ghost. Gray, bitter, bringing no warmth, only the promise that darkness is ending. The temperature inside, 5 degrees Celsius. Outside, minus 30 degrees Celsius. The storm has passed, leaving a world transformed into crystalline death. The matriarch wakes first, always. Her internal clock, calibrated by 40 winters, knows dawn before light arrives. She doesn't move immediately. Movement loses heat. Instead, she lies still, assessing, breathing patterns around her, checking everyone survived the night. The infant's tiny chest rises and falls. The elderly male wheezes but lives. Success. Moving is orchestrated. Everyone shifts simultaneously, preserving the pocket of heat they've created. The fur covering lifts as one, minimizing cold air infiltration. Children are passed from adult to adult, never touching cold stone, never leaving the warmth envelope until they're fully dressed. But dressed means something different here. Each person's clothes, if you can call them that, are inside the sleeping furs, warmed by body heat overnight. Putting on warm clothes versus cold is the difference between comfort and shock that can trigger cardiac arrest in extreme cold. The firekeeper, who took the last watch, has been preparing. Fresh kindling ready, arranged in perfect formation. Larger wood staged nearby, bone fragments for sustained heat. As people wake, he builds the fire from embers to inferno in minutes. The cave temperature rises 10 degrees in half an hour. Now comes the critical moment, the transition. From warm cave to frozen world. They can't stay inside forever. Food must be found, water collected, survival earned anew. But the transition can kill. Blood vessels constricted from cold suddenly dilating. Lungs shocked by frozen air. Hearts stopping from the stress. They prepare like astronauts suiting up for spacewalk. Layer by layer, furs added. Fat smeared on exposed skin, ears, nose, cheeks creating a moisture barrier. Children bundled until they're spherical, barely able to walk but thoroughly insulated. The first adult exits, the strongest male. Testing conditions. He breathes shallow, letting his lungs adjust. His massive nasal passages warm the air, but minus 30 degrees Celsius still burns. He signals back. Survivable. One by one, they emerge. The storm has dumped 2 meters of snow. The landscape is unrecognizable, but they're alive. All of them. In conditions that would kill a modern human in minutes, they've slept, rested, recovered, ready to do it all again tonight. Here's what your anthropology textbook won't tell you. Neanderthals didn't survive 200,000 years of ice ages through physical adaptation alone. A polar bear's fur is warmer. A mammoth's size conserves heat better. But both are extinct, and Neanderthal genes live on in you. The difference? Intelligence. Not the kind measured by IQ tests, but the kind that solves entropy with sticks and stones. Every decision they made, from cave selection to fur arrangement to fire placement, required understanding of principles they couldn't name. Thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, combustion chemistry, metabolic biology. They were unconscious physicists. Their laboratories, the caves where mistakes meant death. Consider the cognitive load, tracking 12 people's thermal states, while maintaining 3 fires at different temperatures, while monitoring weather, while watching for predators, while calculating caloric needs, while preserving fuel, while managing smoke, while preventing carbon monoxide buildup. Your smartphone would crash trying to run that many programs. But the deepest intelligence wasn't individual, it was collective. Knowledge passed grandmother to granddaughter, accumulated across centuries. Each generation added refinements. A better way to angle furs. A new fuel source. Optimal sleeping positions. The band that slept in that cave wasn't just using 40 years of the matriarch's experience, but 4,000 years of accumulated wisdom. They couldn't write it down. They encoded it in ritual, in story, in muscle memory. The way the grandmother arranged those furs, she learned it from her grandmother, who learned it from hers, stretching back to the first Neanderthal who discovered that wolverine fur doesn't frost. Modern humans need civilization to survive winter-insulated houses, central heating, supply chains bringing food from warmer places. Neanderthals needed 12 people, fire, fur, and intelligence that turns physics into survival. When the last Neanderthal died 40,000 years ago, this knowledge died too. We can sequence their DNA, reconstruct their faces, imagine their lives. But we'll never truly know how it felt to understand cold so intimately that you could smell temperature changes, feel barometric pressure in your bones, read death in the color of twilight. They didn't just survive sleeping in minus 20 degrees Celsius blizzards. They mastered it so completely that it became mundane, routine, forgettable. Another night, another storm, another morning waking up alive when everything in nature said they should be frozen corpses. That's not adaptation. That's conquest. And they did it with brains exactly like yours, just trained by necessity to solve problems you'll never face. The next time you adjust your thermostat because 19 degrees Celsius feels chilly, remember, your genes carry the memory of ancestors who called minus 20 degrees Celsius bedtime.